You can't worship listening to that. There's a glitch in the matrix. Well, it's been an interesting week here at Grace Baptist Church. It's been a good week. Last Sunday night, those of y'all that went over to Colindale First Baptist, we had a great time of worship with our sister Southern Baptist churches. 10 steps back, as well as the youth praise team with some of our other praise team members, assisted with praise team members from other churches. We had a great time, but I tell you, it's tough to go to a service like that when you have such great music. And I was just beginning a bout with bronchitis, and so you start singing, and then you just can't go. So, but it was great. It was great to be a part of. And then Friday night, several of the couples here at Grace Baptist, I think 14 couples total, went to Texarkana for our marriage conference. We do one of these every year. We had Ben Phillips was a guest speaker on Friday night. And then on Saturday, the couples kind of learned from each other in discussion groups. And we had some different couples that were leading those. We had a great time. It was just a great time to kind of pour into each other and to grow the marriages here at Grace. You know, when we talk a lot about marriages here at Grace, we have a pastor that really emphasizes strengthening the marriages within our church, within our community. Because if we look at our culture, that's where Satan attacks. Seems like the most. And if we look at a lot of our problems in our culture, especially in schools and for young children, we can see that that's where a lot of it starts, is the breakdown of the family. And so we're going to keep doing stuff for marriages. We're going to keep pushing it. We're going to keep preaching it because it's vital to what we do as believers. Well, this morning, I want to look at a familiar passage of Scripture. We're going to be in Luke 19, a story that many times we think of as a children's story. There's certain stories in the Bible that we kind of look at and we think, well, that's one we teach our kids, right? It's a go-to. Well, the story of Zacchaeus is one of those stories. Now, I hope you understand what you've heard over the last few weeks as Brother Richard has been up here and hopefully in your Sunday school classes and things like that. We're emphasizing this pray for 5. And I hope you have 5 people that you're praying for. 5 people that aren't in church, whether they're someone you know does not have a relationship with Christ or someone you know is far from a relationship with Christ right now. We're praying for those 5 people. And to help emphasize that, beginning last week in some of our Sunday school classes, we started the promotion of some Sunday school lessons geared toward that. Last week, the Sunday school lesson, and in here, the emphasis was on the problem of sin in our life. And Brother Richard, if you've done evangelism training, he has a good sort of brief explanation of the gospel. And we're trying to incorporate that into what we're doing these next few weeks. His definition is this, is there's a problem, and the problem is sin. The solution to that problem is Jesus Christ. And every person has to respond to that solution once they know that that's the solution. And so last week Richard talked about how we can share our faith, how we can use our testimony, our story, to let people know about Jesus. And this week I want to focus on the fact that Jesus is that solution. He is the answer to that algebra problem of life. He's the answer to the question that we may not even know we're asking. So look in Luke chapter 19, verse 1. He entered Jericho and was passing through. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. This is written by Luke, also the author of Acts. We know about Luke that he was a doctor, okay, that he traveled with Paul a lot, but he also spent time with Peter and some of the other disciples in the first century. More than likely, Luke is telling us as he goes through this gospel, he's telling us stories that he heard the other disciples tell him as they passed down their 3 years following Jesus around through the countryside, through the towns, the villages, the cities. And so here he tells, as Jesus is heading toward Jerusalem for the triumphal entry, which will come later on in Luke's account, as Jesus is heading toward his death, he tells this story of his meeting with a man named Zacchaeus. First thing we find about Zacchaeus is that he was a chief tax collector. Of course, this is the time of the year where we don't like to hear the word tax, do we? We're filling out the forms, filling out paperwork, paying more, or sometimes getting money back. But we're not real popular. The letters IRS are not fond in our heads right now. Well, I can tell you, as little as we think of taxes, as little as we think of IRS, the people in Jesus' time thought of tax collectors even lower. You see, Rome had come in and taken over Israel, this area, well, a lot of the world at that time. And then they would get these people, and most of them were fellow Jews, okay, fellow citizens of that area, and they would collect taxes for the Roman government. Well, Zacchaeus is one of those guys. So let's just pretend that Canada invades America. I know we're not scared of them, but still. Let's say Canada invades America, and all of a sudden they hire one of us, let's say they hire me to be a tax collector for them. Well, you would not like me very well, would you? Because I'm working for the enemy. And not only that, for religious reasons. For a Jew, they hated the Romans even worse. Because you know what? The Romans came in and they set up one of their outposts right inside the outer gates of the temple. And for a non-Jew, for them to do that, man, that was horrible. And so they couldn't stand these people. And if you aligned yourself with them, man, people didn't like you. And they knew who you were. And now he says this is a chief tax collector, so that means he had little tax collector minions under him, okay, that he was making money off of. And a lot of times the tax collectors figured out they could make money real well because they would say, well, okay, Junior, you owe 20 shekels in taxes, but really Junior may have just owed 10. And one of the tax collectors would say, okay, Rome, here's your 10. Here's Travis's 10. And so they didn't like these guys. They were just, you saw them in town, just, it's that tax collector. And so here we meet Zacchaeus. Verse 3. And he was seeking to see who Jesus was. This is important. He didn't necessarily, we don't really know how much he knew about Jesus. I think when we learn this as kids, we think of it's like the Beatles are coming to town. For you younger people, Justin Bieber, okay? But it's like they're coming to town, and you're lining up along the streets. Which way is he going to drive by? Can I get an autograph? Whatever, okay? Well, we don't really know. We're not told that he knew exactly who Jesus was. He knew there was just a crowd, and there was someone important coming. Now, he may have known. It just doesn't tell us, is what I'm saying. But on account of the crowd, he could not see because he was small in stature. Now, I'll tell you, this is one thing that's helped me not relate to Zacchaeus as I was growing up, because I was never small in stature. I was never like Zacchaeus. I always related more to Goliath than to David. Felt sorry for that guy sometimes. But Zacchaeus was shorter and he couldn't see. And so what did he do? He climbed up into the sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. Now, of course, if you're thinking back to this passage, and learning it as a kid, the idea is always, why did he climb up that tree? You know, he was well known in the community, had to be. People knew him. We find that out a little bit later in some of the dialogue. So he put himself out there, right? I mean, if you're around a crowd and someone's up in a tree, I mean, I'm guessing you're going to notice, hey, there's a guy up in a tree. It's going to stand out a little bit as opposed to the people just standing around on the ground. He put himself out there. He made himself visible. He wasn't thinking about what people thought about him. Now, whether this shows a little bit of arrogance on Zacchaeus' part, or it may have, the way Jesus responds to him, maybe a sign of humility. That he didn't care. He just wanted to see. He knew someone important was coming. He knew someone that meant something was coming. He may have known deep down that something he needed was walking down that street. And so here he is, up in the tree. And Jesus comes to the place, looks up, and says, hurry down, for I must stay at your house today. I like this little telling of Jesus here, because this tells me it's okay for me to invite myself over for dinner. Sorry. But no, Jesus invites himself over. Says, hey man, I'm going to hang out at your house. Now when we were kids, and some of us, some that's been more recent than others, but there was a song that goes along with the story, right? Zacchaeus was a wee little man. See, he climbed up in the sycamore tree. What's this? I'm a music leader. Okay. Glad I got to sing that all day in the picture. Help me out. Yeah. All right. Now, in this part right there, the part with when Jesus talks to Zacchaeus, right? We do it kind of like, right? You come down. Like Jesus is mad at him for being a tax collector. But is that how Jesus responds to him? We don't see that. He just says, man, come on down. Cook me some vittles.
Some what?
Let's eat. Let's hang out.
Oh.
Now imagine this, okay? Once again, let's say the Beatles are coming to town, or Justin Bieber, whoever, okay? They're coming to town. And all of a sudden they stop and say, I want to hang out with you. I'm going to spend time with you today. I'm going to go spend time at your house. I don't know if Zacchaeus had a wife, but I'm sure she's stressed out about this point. Company's coming. But Jesus goes to spend time with him. Verse 6, so he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. He was happy to receive him. He was ready for this. He didn't know necessarily what he was getting into. Verse 7, and when they saw it, they all grumbled. He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. I don't know how your translation describes these people here. But it says they. They're the they of the story. We know there's a crowd around, so the they is probably some of the crowd. Now, if you look back in the context of what's going on, in 1834, we know Jesus is just kind of around his disciples. Okay, so this they could be his disciples. In fact, in 1834, they say, but they understood none of these things. This saying was hidden from them, and they did not grasp what was said. This is after Jesus is foretelling his death. And so the disciples still really aren't understanding all Jesus is doing. So this they could be some of his disciples mixed in with that group. Okay? It's definitely probably some Jewish people, this being Jericho, some religious people, it being a religious leader who was coming into town. Okay? But there's this they here. And how do they respond? They respond like we add to that song. Right? Zacchaeus. Like you need to be scolded. Like you need to be straightened out. That's true. He needed Jesus. But that's not the way we see Jesus respond to him. That's not the way we see Jesus treat him. He doesn't treat him like he's lower. He doesn't treat him like he's a dirty dog sinner. Because every one of us are. Now, his was obvious to the Jewish person. His sin was very obvious because of his job and what he did. But Jesus didn't point that out. Jesus said, come down, let's spend time together. The they. Zacchaeus. And then they look at Jesus. How dare you spend time with that sinner? Can you believe it? Can you believe that religious leader is spending time with someone like that? How dare he? They start questioning. Verse 8, and Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. Now, I want to know what they're talking about at this dinner party. There's a lot of times in the Gospels we're told at least snippets of the conversations. Jesus will say something about take up your cross and follow me. He'll say, eat my flesh and drink my blood. He'll say, go sell off everything you have and give it to the poor. He'll say something like that. And we'll get to hear about it. And the Holy Spirit, as it's directing the human writers, makes those things important enough to be put in the text so that we know exactly the conversation. But here's all we know from this, is that Zacchaeus spent time with Jesus, and it changed him dramatically to where it was obvious to everybody. And he stood up and said, I'm going to give half my goods I give to the poor. And if I've defrauded anybody, if I've cheated anybody, I'm paying them back fourfold. What a sign of repentance. How many people have you ever seen repent that way? I don't know if I've ever seen it. And it wasn't we're not told it's some great speech given by Jesus. We're not told it's some piercing remark showing Zacchaeus how bad he is. Jesus just introduced himself. And being around Jesus for that bit of time, however long that was, Zacchaeus is different. Publicly, professionally, personally, different. And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, since he also is the son of Abraham." Today salvation has come to this house. And Jesus does throw in, if you're looking for little jabs, he throws in a little left jab here, for he is the son of Abraham. He's reminding them, he's just as worthy as any of you other Jews out there that are griping and complaining about me hanging out with a sinner. He's just as worthy. In verse 10, "For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." As we talk about the gospel, and as we talk about leading up to Easter, sharing the gospel with people, as we talk about God using us to bring people to Christ, God using us to speak truth into people's life, what God calls us to do is not just give some outline that we've memorized. Those things help. What God calls us to do is introduce people to Jesus. Introduce them to the Jesus that changed us. Introduce them to the Jesus that was the solution for our life. And we know it's the solution for theirs. But in order for us to do that, we can't look at people in our life and say, "Now you listen, you need Jesus." When we do that, too many times we push them away. But what if we just introduced them to Jesus? I tried to imagine this story. This is not the Bible. This is not in the Greek or any other, okay? This is just Travis's version. What if there was an extra character? Let's call him Billy. Zacchaeus is up in the tree. Jesus is walking down the road, and there's Billy. Billy's heard of Jesus. He knows who Jesus is. In fact, Billy met Jesus a couple weeks ago down at the dollar store. Okay? So, listen, Jesus shopped at the dollar store. Bargains. Okay. So Billy sees Jesus coming. Now Billy also knows Zacchaeus. They grew up in the same neighborhood together. They used to play wiffle ball or something. Let's say they're walking down the road. Zacchaeus walking down, is up the tree. Jesus walking down the road. And what if Billy said, hey Jesus. Hey man, it's Billy. Remember me, Doris? Hey, I want you to meet my friend Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, and you gotta meet Jesus. Man, that'd be cool with Billy, wouldn't it? That'd have been neat. Now, Billy's not in this story. Once again, Travis is not adding to Scripture. Okay? We're just saying, what if? We should be Billy. We should be like those friends that their friend was paralyzed and dug a hole through the roof and dropped him down in front of Jesus. There's people in our world, they need Billy. Because you know what? Jesus isn't going to come walking down that road. But here's the cool thing. He's still very much alive. And he's still very much looking for people to hang out with. He still wants to spend time with us. He still wants to introduce himself to people. But he says to us in his word, go ye therefore and make disciples. Go ye therefore and be Billy and introduce them to me. Show them who I am. Tell them about who I am. Because he is the only solution. You know, in the marriage conference this weekend, we talk a lot about, issues that couples deal with. And that, especially this weekend, we talked about the chaotic marriage. It's finding order within chaos. Because life so many times is chaos. And talk about just different things like your schedule and your spiritual walk as a couple and as a family and all those different things. How many of those things would be fixed in our life if we focused on the solution that is Jesus? And if Jesus was first in everything, everything else falls into place. You've heard me say it before, but God doesn't want us to have a list of priorities for our week. And say, well, as I go through the day, God's first because I'm in church and God's always supposed to be first. And then family, and then work, and then friends, and then the other 85 things I got to do this week. That's not what God wants. God doesn't want to be just the top of the list. God wants the list. He wants the whole thing. And he says, as you go to work, where's Jesus in that? Are you introducing people to Jesus? As you deal with your family, how are you introducing them to Jesus? Because I have news for you. First of all, we're told here that was Jesus' whole plan. That was his whole plan, his whole job description. For the Son of Man has came to seek and save the lost. And if I'm called by God to be like Jesus, then my job needs to be to seek and save the lost. And when that's our job, when that's our calling, when that's what we're set apart to do, then the other things in life that get in the way of that need to take big time back steps. And not only that, I have a little, not a prediction, a promise for you. That there will be a day where we will say, you know what, none of that mattered. Because we're going to see the only solution is Jesus. And he's going to be on the throne. And he's going to be in heaven. And we're going to be there with him. And we're going to be singing praises to him. And we're going to be hearing angels and created beings screaming, hallelujah, and yelling and singing to him. And we're going to realize, you know what? I let a lot of things get in the way of the real solution to this life. The secret to this life. The answer that's there before us the whole time is Jesus. So as we look at this, the solution for Zacchaeus is Jesus. The solution for people we know that are going through tough times, that are maybe going through good times, but they don't have Jesus. They need Jesus. And it's our job to show him. The solution for the people that were looking at Jesus, how could you go spend time with him? The solution for them was right in front of them, was Jesus. Zacchaeus got it. They didn't. The solution for me on how to live my life is to have the same heart that Jesus had. To seek and save the lost. To allow him to work in and through us to do that. Are we doing that? Bow your heads, close your eyes, please. As we close up.